Hey guys, welcome to the debut edition of the show. Here I am, Shane Simmons. Tell you a little bit about my background. I have about 20 years in financial services of different types. I've been a vice president at a regional bank, which covered it as a district manager. I've been a lender. I've been a mortgage lender. I've had a Series 7, Series 6, and 63 investment licenses. I have done it all. I have the black belt in financial services, but also have made every mistake every human can make. I've been divorced twice. Every bad decision, rash, emotional, petty decision you could ever make. So I think I got a good hodgepodge of experiences to make this a good show. Now today, this being the debut show too, I have one mission and one mission only, and that is to scare you. I want to scare the living pants off of somebody out there. So if I don't do that, then I'll consider this whole thing a failure. So let's get right to it. What I'm going to talk about today is the sense of urgency for saving money. Now, I've seen this graphic done a few times, and I did it a lot of times when I was in financial services, and it'll scare the living pants off of you. And let's get to it. So, let's just talk about retirement, okay? Let's just say this is more historic. I don't know that people expect this as much as they used to, but there used to be an expectation you turn 65, you retire. EMA, if you're lucky, live to be about 85, and then you kind of just kick on over and roll out of the way. But let's just use those numbers just for a baseline, because it gives you a good idea of how scared you need to be. So let's say you are 65 years old. You're a man and your wife, or you're a wife and your husband, however you want to look at it, and you need to get an idea together. How much money do I need to have so that I can retire? Well, let's just talk about eating. Something very near and dear to my heart, as you can tell. I love to eat. So this is why this one really registers with me. It's always resonated and scared me up. So, okay, let's talk about eating. Okay, I'm 65, might live to 85. I might live to 88. I might live to 90. Who knows? I might live to 95 anymore. Look at Clint Eastwood. He's out there just turned 94. So you just don't know anymore. But let's just guesstimate. 65, I'm an average health. Probably lived to 85. My daddy did, and my grandpappy did, and everybody else did. So I'm going to probably live to 85. Okay. Well, let's just think here. Food. Okay. How much is the cheapest I could live off of on average? Now, prices have skyrocketed, and we'll talk about inflation in a future video, because that's a scary one too. That will scare you probably worse than this. That would be, if this is Jason Voorhees, that's Michael Myers. But anyway, let's just say you and your spouse getting ready to retire, and you just want to think about eating. How much money do I need to set aside just to eat? Okay, well, I got about 20 years to live. I like to eat 3 meals a day. And let's say somehow, some way, it would be a miracle, but let's just say you can get by on $5 per meal, okay? So let's do the math here. 3 meals a day, okay, $5 per meal times 365 days in a year, if my math is correct. So there we go. We got 3 meals a day, $5 per meal, 365 days per year. Okay, I don't trust my brain enough to do that math without a little assistance here. So we got 3 times 5 times 365. That equals $5,475, okay, per year. Well, that's just for one person. So one person, you multiply that by 2 people. Okay, now I'm up to $10,950 per year. Okay, well, it's bad. That's kind of bad. But I don't know. Is it that bad? I don't know. Well, let's just look and say you live those 20 years I'm talking about. You multiply that figure by 20, and you come up with a staggering $219,000. That's just to eat. That's not eating well. That's not eating, I mean, you couldn't eat at McDonald's for that. And certainly, we're talking about today. Now, let's look back what you could get 5 years or 2 years ago even from McDonald's with $5. How much it's skyrocketed. So if you don't take into account inflation, imagine how much more it would need to be. You're probably looking at $250,000 just to eat. just to eat for 20 years, you and a spouse. I mean, that is, and that's eating badly, eating terribly. That's eating Campbell soup. You could barely eat Campbell soup for that per meal. I mean, it's ridiculous. If you try to eat out let's work in a Ruth's Chris once a year, or heck, even a Texas Roadhouse. And then you're talking about all these dollar figures are blown up even more. It could end up being, if you actually ate $10, if it cost you $10 per meal on average, you're talking about, $500,000 almost. It's crazy. But that's real numbers. That's the reality of it. So what does this should do for you? It should strike fear in your heart of, I need to save every which way I can. And starting today. So get out there, tighten the old belt up, stick that money in the savings accounts, do whatever you pay your debts off, because the sneakiest thing I've seen is these credit card debts. It is so easy of a trap to fall into. And man, I'm telling you right now, if you think about, if you're just eating, let's just say, okay, in 20 years, you're going to need a car. So you're either going to have to pay cash for that, or you're going to have to get a car payment. So you're talking about, you're needing an extra $400 a month for that. You're talking about car insurance. You've got, God forbid, you still owe on your house. You got a mortgage or rent. You've got, what else is involved? Taxes. You've got, you name it. You've got all kinds of things. And what you see a lot these days too is a lot of grandparents taking in their children or their children's children. We're trying to help them in any way, shape, form, or fashion. So you've got all those things to consider. You've got, but let's not forget the biggie one too, medical expenses. You're going to probably, from the time you're 65 to 85, you're going to have some medical bills. Hopefully you don't spend any time in the hospital, but you just never know. You can't predict that. So you need to be prepared for that. So it's expensive to live, guys, is what I'm telling you. So you need to save back every dollar you possibly can. And I'm telling you, before you spend money on foolishness, like so many of us do, I'm guilty of it. Heck, I've got right above me foolishness. I bought a doll of Quint from Jaws, and I've got Rowdy Yates from Rawhide of Clint Eastwood. So yeah, I've made some foolish purchases, but I got scared sober here recently, so hopefully you will too, and we'll get on this thing together. It'll be the financial diet, as we call it. But anyway, just hold that up one last time, $219,000. But can imagine if you add those other expenses I talked about in there, what you're talking about. It could easily cost you $1 million or more just to live for 20 years in retirement. So we all know Social Security is not going to be there to the extent it has been in the past. Nobody has pensions anymore. Where does it come from? Well, you've really got to pitch into that 401k, especially if your employer matches. You've got to get money going in that. And tomorrow, I'm talking about, please tell me you've already got some. If you don't, you need to put in as much as you possibly can squeeze out. Give till it hurts, because you've got to see that thing start picking up to get a little peace of mind, which is, if you want to live those 20 years, if you want to get from 65 to 85, it would help to not have as much stress in your life. So cut out all the stress you possibly can. One thing you can do is to have enough funds to feel like, oh, maybe I can make it after all. So, that's our lesson for today. I'll get back with you next time, and we'll talk about another topic. But I like to keep things simple because I'm a simple person. I understand in simple ways. So hope you enjoyed this. If you did, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll keep them rolling. This is the debut episode. You may be the only person that ever watches this, but this is meant for you. I did it. If I can help one person, I'll be happy. See you guys next time.